You are tuned in to A Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Greetings and welcome to A Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Today, I'm delighted to have Dr. Carmen Boulter return to the show. Carmen is the creative fire behind her award-winning series, The Pyramid Code. She is also the director, producer, and writer of the series. Carmen has had an unshakable passion for Egypt, traveling there over 28, probably over 29 or 30 times by now. And through embassy support, Carmen did extensive research in the archives of the Egyptian Museum, gaining official access to the rare books library of the Faculty of Archaeology. She is also the author of Angels and Archetypes, an evolutionary map of feminine consciousness. She is presently preparing for a very special trip to Egypt, which I believe takes place during December at 12/12/12, and this is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime trip, of course, because it only happens once. So for those of you who are interested, you should look into that right away before it's filled. She's also working on 2 new books, one co-authored with William Henry. So to find out more about the work that she's doing right now and the events and the articles, go to www.pyramidcode.com. So now, let's welcome Carmen back to the show. Hi, Carmen. How are you?
I'm great. Hi, Lance.
Hi. Well, you must have been very busy since we last spoke, because I'm looking at the photos that you sent prior to the show, and they're absolutely fascinating. I think we've got at least an hour right here if we were just to go over what you sent me.
Yes, well, I've taken 26 flights this year already.
Oh, my God.
I've spoken in 6 different countries.
Wow. Wow. Well, can you give us kind of a highlight of all of those trips?
Well, in February, I went on an expedition that I led to Egypt to find a new site.
Oh,
and so that was Egypt. And then in May, I was in France on a Mary Magdalene tour with Kathleen McGowan and Philip Coppens, and then we went on to England and met with a guy who was measuring the timing of UFO sightings and crop circle landings through a certain formula, a logarithmic formula that he figured out. So Roy Dutton, that was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then in May, I gave a paper at a congress in Russia with 17 people from 17 countries, and my paper was called The Effects of the Great Pyramid on the Human Aura and the Chakra System. And I came up with some statistically significant correlations, if you will, that are less than a chance of 1 in 1,000 of having happened by accident. And then I went to Las Vegas for business meetings because I'm putting a team together, so we're in pre-production for another TV series.
Oh, wonderful.
So I was supposed to go to Brazil in September, but I'm canceling that because I just can't keep going at this rate. Just enough flights already, thanks.
Yes, well, they do take a little bit out of you, don't they?
They sure do, especially in Russia. It was the land of the midnight sun, and it was light the entire time I was there. 2 o'clock in the morning, it's as light as 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So my clock was very disturbed, let's say.
Yes, I would think so. Well, of course, there's a lot of drinking that goes on, I'm sure, that to help people get to sleep. Now, on these photos, I was looking at the first one that's the Fireside Chat series.
Yes.
And the very first one, did you want to talk about those now?
Yes, certainly. So the way it all started was somebody called me up and said, hey, look, I've got these satellite pictures, and I think it could be something that had to do with an Atlantis, and I'm not going to tell you where it is, but I'd like to have you arrange for an expedition.
Uh-huh.
And so they wouldn't tell me which quadrant of the Western Desert it was, and it's the size of Texas. And so going in on Google Earth and trying to find the thing was actually quite challenging. But anyway, I wasn't planning on doing that. I thought maybe that they would give me some kind of an idea where they were interested in taking us. And the series that we were working on was called The Psychic Archaeologist. And he said to me, well, if she's so psychic, why doesn't she find it herself? So it was very much a needle in a haystack.
Right.
So I had a team gathered for that as well. And spontaneously, without knowing, one of the team was in Chicago, and one was in Egypt, and I was here in Canada, and we all started looking for it on Google Earth ourselves. And I was having my morning coffee, and the one in Chicago was having lunch, and the one in Egypt was having dinner. Anyway, so I found it. And then there were actually two sites, and we weren't sure how we were, so I found the coordinates. And the second site, we'll go through the pictures, actually was north of there. So I arranged for a very dangerous expedition. We were going into an Army-restricted zone because there were landmines left over from the war that no one had cleared. And the site was so big, it was 1,300 feet per side, something like that. And the only way we'd be able to observe it was from a hot air balloon, so we had to arrange to get a hot air balloon in there. And be on the open desert and do desert camping in order to reach it because it was so far in the reaches of the Western Desert.
Wow.
And so it was quite an adventure, believe me. And so that's how all that started, and we did find the site, and we were able to assess it, and that's what those pictures are. So the picture that you're looking at, the first picture, is what we had from Google Earth.
Okay.
And so you can see that it's a trapezoid shape, and we'll post these for your listeners on my website. And then there's a circle around it, across, and if you keep going through the pictures, you'll see that it looks like there's a little bit of a pyramid or perhaps the top of an obelisk. And so I was quite fascinated with it. And then there were all these Vesica Pisces images that had airplanes in them. And all these tracks, so if you keep looking, some of them are a little hard to see because we're several thousand feet in the air.
Wow.
And you can see that on the four satellite pictures called, that if you look at it at a different angle, that trapezoid actually, you can see that it's not exactly square, and it just changes the look of it when you look at it from different angles. And then as you keep going along, you'll see that there wasn't just, when they first sent it to me, it looked like there was only one Vesica Pisces, but when you look, there's actually 9. And they actually line up in something that's the tree of life.
Wow.
The shape. And so we were pretty excited that we had found something, perhaps. We had to get boots on the ground in order to really look at what we had found. And this is often the case when people go into Google Earth and think they found new pyramids, has been disclosed in the last week. But having looked at so many satellite images, I'm pretty sure that those are natural formations. So as you keep going, you can see that there's one that you can measure in Google Earth. And so I could see that the one site was about a mile away from the other one. And I'm the one who named it the Venus Portal. Before we got there and saw it, as you can see. Are you moving along with me?
Yes, I'm on number 6 now. That's
right. And so when we got into the open desert, we all had to have 4x4 Jeeps that were desert-worthy because it's kind of like driving in snow, and it's very dangerous. So we had to have all these ironclad permits to go in with permission from the government, and we managed to get them. And this was only a month after the revolution, so that was a big feat in itself. And we had to travel with a mechanic and a cook, and full camping gear, and parts for the vehicle, and gas and water, and everything else in between. And so they trucked in the hot air balloons and the baskets from Luxor, but the truck that had, you're looking at image 8681, the truck that had the basket in it didn't have four-wheel drive. So it drives a few feet. And the other thing is we lost the balloon, the drivers coming from the campsite, and we were supposed to be flying at sunrise, because the weather patterns change, the wind patterns change, and it becomes increasingly difficult, particularly to land. And so they would drive a few feet and get stuck, and then drive a few more feet and get stuck, and of course it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter.
Oh, geez.
And we knew we were going to be facing landmines, and they said, well, the only thing we can do is fly the balloon from here. And I'm like, well, we're not there yet. We're not close to the fourth.
Oh, my gosh.
And so they said, take it or leave it, because if we wait too much longer, it's going to be impossible to fly.
Wow.
So, we're talking, a huge sum of money to get this whole thing together in the first place and bring a crew. And then we also brought Dr. Konstantin Korotkov, who had invented machines that can test and measure consciousness fields and energy frequencies in places, and the consciousness fields in people. And I've since purchased this equipment, and that's where the study came from that I gave the paper in Russia.
Oh.
And so, it was a considerable expense to be flying people from all over the world and getting them in there.
Right.
And I thought the whole expedition was going to go down, and they said, well, it may be dangerous. We don't know what direction the wind's going to fly in, and it's like, okay, we just have to pray here. We got this far. We're in the general vicinity of the site. Okay, let's go up. So let's move on to the next picture. They blew up the balloon, and where are we here? So they had to bring all the equipment, right? Helium and everything to blow up the balloon.
Wow.
And then we launched, and you can see the shadow, right, of the balloon in the air. And look at the open desert. I mean, there's nothing.
Oh, there's nothing there.
There's nothing.
Well, other than there is a pyramid eventually.
Well, you looked ahead.
I peeked. You look like Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm serious. I mean, you could easily be in your own series. Well, you are in your own series of movies. Heck. Indiana. I'll call you Indiana Jones.
There you go. So it was pretty exciting. It really, really was something, because it's completely unusual to truck a balloon in anywhere. Mm-hmm. And this was like high adventure.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The picture after the fire going up into the balloon is this little device called an eco-tester. And it can measure earth, rock, water, and air. And so Dr. Korotkov has been developing and improving and testing this equipment along with people in 17 other countries that were represented at this Congress in Russia in July, actually. I said May. It's July. Mm-hmm. And so he was, super well trained in terms of how to do the measurements. And so we wanted to see if the place had energy and, how it compared with other places in Egypt. And so we took baseline measurements in Cairo, and then we were measuring ourselves in terms of how the energy was affecting us. Mm. And we measured at a Christian fortress, and it was on water lines, and there was an oasis close, and it turned out that place had super high energy. Anyway, I'll get into the results after. Okay, so move on to the next picture after the device, and see way off in the distance that faint square, the trapezoid shape.
Let's see.
And a little dot in the middle. You can faintly see flat on the ground what we saw from above. Are you there? Image 8758.
Let me see. It's is that 13 of 27?
No, it's 87. The name of the photo is 8758.
All right. Oh, okay. I see. I got you.
So look off in the distance, slightly to the left, off center.
Okay.
About a third of the way down, you can see that faint trapezoid shape.
Yes.
And circle, and it's very faint. But having looked at it so much from the air in the satellite shots, I knew we found it. Right?
Yes, you can see it from the distance.
Okay, so you're going to move closer. Next picture, and it's harder to see the trapezoid, but it's there. But it's like we had a 22 optical lens magnification on the camera that we brought. And so the videographer was able to see that was a pyramid.
Wow.
And we're talking way out in the middle of the open desert, right?
Yes.
Are you excited? You feel like you were with us?
My gosh, it's amazing. And
okay.
And then there's, of course, the surrounding. It's encased. Well, not encased, but it's in a circle and a square as well.
That's right. And then the cross in the middle, and the pyramid, which we couldn't tell at a distance how big it was, because all you could see, because satellite images are from above. And
right.
so it could have been the top of an obelisk, but I didn't know what it was.
Right.
And now you can see that the pyramid's flat on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Pyramid shape, let's put it that way. Okay,
right.
moving along?
Yes.
So there's another one that backs off, and you see the trapezoid again. But to the north, which is going to be to the right of these images, we were flying, and the flight went very well. We went directly overhead, and now you can start to see these Vesica Pisces, and they look like planes. And so when I first started looking at this stuff, it was like, well, if I was in a spaceship, it would be like, X marks the spot, come land here.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Right? And,
right.
and so keep going along, and you'll see that there's airplanes in them. And then it looks like a whole bunch of tracks. Now, were those tracks made from Jeeps? Or, it was hard to tell because we didn't really know what we were looking at.
Uh-huh.
Yeah? And then we landed. Badly. Bump, 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 bump. Really very, very uncomfortable. So the Jeeps, the rescue Jeeps, were able to follow us along, which was a good thing, because we didn't know if we were going to be walking 20 miles to get out of there, or if they would be able to get in, or if the wind was going to blow us further north, where there was, mountains and they couldn't drive up. But it was like, we've gone this far, let's go.
Right.
Anyway, so there's the balloon down. And moving along. So then we started to walk toward what looked like a pyramid. So there's the videographer, and there we are. Are you there on 8793?
Yes, I am.
So we're walking along, and then we start to notice these bombs. We thought our problem was going to be landmines, and then we see rusted, exploded, and unexploded bombs. You see that one on 8799?
Let me see here. 8799.
There's three people, a little rusty thing in the front, and the pyramid
I've got
back.
8793. I don't have 8799. I've got 8808.
It didn't download.
Apparently not, but
8802?
8802 didn't come through either. Well,
okay, so there were these little, and they're in there somewhere. Maybe they're still downloading.
Yeah.
So they were a foot across, and they literally were little bombs. We're like, what are we looking at here? So we kept walking, kept taking a few more steps, keep moving along, and then we arrived, and the edges of this trapezoid shape looked like rubber that was totally deteriorating.
Huh.
What are we looking at here? And then we started to see all these pot marks. And then we looked at the condition of the little pyramid, which wasn't very big. Keep going along. I don't know what pictures you have and you don't.
I'm on 8812.
Okay. So there's the trapezoid shape, and the people are standing on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing that's coming directly off the pyramid shape is the cross that you saw from above. But look at this pyramid. It's like completely deteriorated.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And then keep going.
Okay.
And also not very big. In 8826, you can see there's people standing next to it, and it's,
right.
the height of three people.
Right,
Which isn't big at all, but you couldn't tell that from the satellite pictures. And so in 8830, you can see the cross and us standing beside it.
Right.
And then there's all these pot marks, broken pieces of a blue-colored pottery.
Huh.
And then if you looked at the pyramid, the one you see at 8832 with the guy standing on the top, you can see it's not very big, and it's full of these little marks. So we were able to conclude that the site was modern. It was used by the Air Force as a target for practicing dropping bombs.
Oh, how interesting.
How disturbing. Interesting and disturbing.
Yeah.
So we took measurements, and there's two levels of the measurement of the energy. One is the energetic frequency of a place, and one is the stability of the energy. And so the energy of this place, it probably has been abandoned. The other thing is it could be about 30 years old, and it was completely deteriorating. And so some of the team was like, oh, well, it's modern, never mind, there's nothing here.
Right.
But, I mean, I had visions about, something, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but the point of the matter is that because we took the measurements, we got to see that after bombs were dropped on the thing, the chaotic energy was still residual.
Oh.
30 years later.
So
the Earth was still saying, you dropped bombs on me here.
That's
and
important information.
Well, pardon?
That's very important information.
Yes, I thought, pardon the way I'm saying this, but I thought, we are so stupid.
Right.
To think that the Earth doesn't have a memory, one.
Right.
And to use, the blasphemy of using a pyramid as a target, what kind of ignorance would do that in terms of crossing metaphors?
Yep.
And using it like a game.
Yep.
And then unexploded bombs around, so it was really, really, really interesting. And so the energy field was quite high because it's Egypt and because it's the open desert. And Dr. Korotkoff had just come back from Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and he said that the entire energy field in the temples, even the smaller temples that are more remote, was completely lower, like much, much lower in terms of vibrational frequency than the apartment in Cairo.
Huh.
And as chaotic as Cairo can be, it's still Egypt, and it still carries an overall higher energy field.
Wow.
And of the whole expedition, the highest field was at the Christian fortress. And the thing about this machine is that it picks up on, it's called the eco tester, the GDV, Gaseous Discharge Visualization Eco Tester. It picks up on everything, and including other people. And so we were trying to, isolate the variables so that we really could get some good measurements. And so he went to this Christian fortress by himself, because it was in the vicinity of the campground that we stayed at for 2 days. No, campground. The desert camping. The place where we put our tents.
Okay.
Sure there was no campground.
Right.
And measured for an hour, which also increases the possibility of getting significant reading. And there was also a water source close by. Off in the distance, you could see a little oasis. So he wanted to ascertain if it was an ancient site that the Christians had built over the top of, which the Christians were all over Egypt, and, just as the millennium shifted there, and, just 300 AD, somewhere in there. And sure enough, he found the highest vibrational frequency there. It had something to do with the water, but the energy was chaotic, and I say that had something to do with what the Christians did when they were there.
Oh.
But this fortress just stands in the middle of the open desert, and so I've done desert expeditions before when we went to Nafta Playa, and that's completely in another region of the Western Desert. But there were all kinds of Christian settlements and places that there were no roads, but it was 40 days and 40 nights to come in there on a camel, and we were coming in there with jeeps and a crew and all of that. So that was kind of fascinating, but it kind of left us empty-handed in terms of the energy of a new Atlantis and what does that mean.
Right.
And ironically, I got an invitation to, for this situation in Russia, and because the Pyramid Code has been on national TV in 30 countries, Russia's one of them, and it's been translated into Russian, there were some people who were expecting me because they saw that I was one of the keynote speakers at the conference, and so that's where the story of the new pyramid comes in, which we can cover later. I don't know where you want to go next.
Well,
looking at pictures. Let's keep looking at the pictures on the
Yes. Well, now we have it switches to the chakras and the energy field pictures.
Okay, those are the key results of the study.
Okay.
It's funny you only got some of the pictures because I'm looking at a jeep, and we went to a crystal mountain. The entire mountain was quartz.
Huh. And now, there is one picture, which is 9104, which shows some of the quartz of the...
Yes. And so it's difficult to see, but if you look, those pieces would break off, and there were chunks that were, as big as your baby finger, up to chunks that were like, a foot across.
Wow.
And some of it was clear, some of it was like yellowish, and some of it was gray. But I'm telling you, the entire mountain is sitting there, and it's quartz.
Wow.
So we took the energetic frequency there, and it was quite high, and it was quite stable because no one goes there.
Right.
But what an adventure, because it was up a big hill, and so, you know, these drivers are just absolutely amazing. I mean, if you can imagine driving up hills of snow, it's like, you know, and you can easily get stuck if you don't know what you're doing. And that certainly happened on our expedition to Napa Playa. We got 2 flat tires within 10 minutes.
Oh, geez.
And, you know, they go rrr, and dig themselves further into the sand, and we're like, oh, God.
Oh,
don't know how to drive. What are we going to do now? But, I mean, there's only so many spare tires you bring on an expedition. You
right.
Out every 10 minutes. So anyway, so we had to go zooming up this huge sand dune in order to get to the base of the mountain. And anyway, so it was crystal everywhere, and it was just so incredible. Like, totally. And there's an extension on the 12-12-12 trip where we're going to do White Christmas on the White Desert, because the group ends on the 22nd, of course, after the alignment on the 21st. And there's a feast day for each god and goddess, Isis, Nephthys, Seth, Horus, and Osiris. And so we're going to do the traditional ritual to each of the gods and goddesses on each day, and then go to the Crystal Mountain, go to the White Desert, and a place where there's 43 million-year-old petrified coral, which drives the point home that Egypt was completely underwater 3 times.
Wow.
And the problem with us piecing our history together is that geology needs to speak to, you know, paleontology, linguistics, anthropology, archaeology, and what we've got in the current system is all of these disciplines being divided rather than brought together.
Right.
And so, you know, it should be, if you're studying Egypt, you study every aspect of Egypt. You know, instead of being an archaeologist and only looking at archaeology, because we're never going to piece the story together if we don't move forward that way.
Well, yes, that is kind of the unspoken intention, isn't it? That we don't piece the story together.
Unspoken intention, yeah. But we're on to them, right?
Yes, well, we are. So hopefully we're, you know, that's the end of that.
Do you see 9198?
I'm looking at 8799 now with the bomb.
Oh, so it came in later?
It did, yeah. That's spooky. That's very spooky. Okay, let me see.
Okay. All right, well, yeah, just keep scrolling through. Yeah, so there's a bomb. That's a bomb.
Yeah. Oh, it's clearly a bomb. Oh, here's one. 9063 is fascinating. It looks like a snaggletooth. It's some kind of
stalactite, yeah. Okay, so that was kind of the formation, and you can see at the bottom left of that picture these striations. And pieces of crystal were coming off.
Wow.
And they were scattered all over. It was just, it was completely amazing. And then there was a cave on the other side with crystals inside it.
Wow.
Like literally on the roof of the cave. The ceiling of the cave. Well, everywhere. I mean, everything was crystal everywhere. Crystal sand that had blown in.
Wow. It's a beautiful, eerie area, for sure.
Well, it's eerie for sure. So you can see another one of these huge geodes in the way. I don't know, as a kid, we had these crystal kits, and you would add a certain thing that would make the crystal start processing and growing.
Yeah, I had those. Right.
So you can see, are you at 9092? You know, the formation, and you got to get up close to it, and all those little bits on the ground that have fallen off are quartz.
Wow.
It's just like mind-boggling. So then when you think about Abu Ghraib, the quartz altar there, and at Karnak, there's huge chunks of quartz. Well, maybe they came from here.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting, don't you think?
Yes, it is. If anyone can get to the bottom of it, you'd be one of the few people on the planet who will do it.
Well, you know, when they were saying, well, you know, we don't have funding, and we, you know, maybe we're going to, you know, we were pitching the psychic archaeologists, and, you know, you need to wait, and then one of the satellite pictures appeared on Philip Coppen's Facebook page with no explanation of what it was. I just thought, we need to go. And so we got up and we were on planes within days and gathered that the crew came from Chicago, and we all met in Cairo, and we had it all arranged, and we had Dr. Erin Nell, who's an archaeoastronomer, and she arranged the desert camping, and, and Dr. Konstantin Korotkov and me, and it was just like, to me, it was just so fascinating and rich because Dr. Korotkov actually brought me my own GDD device, which I purchased, and trained me on it while we were there. And so we stayed at the Bedouin Castle, which Dr. Erin and her Egyptian husband had just finished building, and it was only complete like 10 days before we got there.
Wow.
And this place is at the Bahariya Oasis, and all the rooms look over the tops of palm trees. And when you've been on the desert, and it's desert forever, you understand that whole thing about being at an oasis. There's even hot springs there.
Wow. Wow,
so,
that was a treat.
Do you see 9126?
9126. 9104. 9126, yes.
See, look at that beautiful light beam.
Yes, yes.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Yes, it is beautiful.
And then 9198.
9198. 9126. Hold on, 9198. Hold on.
No, well, it's just the tiny little Jeep and the huge expanse.
Yes, I got it. 9198.
And so every few minutes driving on the desert, the whole thing changes. It's white and then it's black. You know, it's mountainous and then it's flat. It's just completely fascinating. Like on the Western Desert, close to Nafta Playa, it's more sand dunes. And so this is like, the topography is just incredible. So, here comes the mailman. Sorry, thank you. Okay, Bella, no, sorry. You're going to have to edit this part out. My dog just ran out the door.
Well, that's all right. Dogs are permitted.
She always barks at the mailman, even though we've lived here for 3 years. I try not to book my interviews at 11 o'clock.
Well, now, we have two other sets of photos that we can talk about, and I don't want to run out of time at the end of the show. Do you want to start in on the new Val photos?
No, let's look at the energy field one.
Oh, yes. Go back to the energy field.
So they're called Pyramid Study, and you've got after, before.
Yes.
Oh, they're not coming in very clear. Okay, that's disappointing. And before the show, when we post them, I'll put higher resolution ones up. I don't understand that. I don't know how I'm going to be able to describe that to you if you can't see them. Are they coming in clearly for you?
It's clear for me. It looks like a toroid figure.
It is.
It's a human figure in the middle of the toroid, and then the toroid is outlined by ley lines that are different, multicolored.
That's right. Okay, so this is an image that comes directly out of the Pyramid Code, and Hakim in the Pyramid Code talks about 360 senses. And this was my idea of how to take a priestess with her chakras and demonstrate how different, I call them handles, could be connected so that its synesthesia is hearing a picture or seeing music. It's a cross-sensory modality. So I was trying to find a way to measure if going inside the pyramid can contribute to becoming more psychic. And how that works, because if you get a gut feeling and a voice in your ear and a sense in your heart, you have more of a chance of catching something that's subliminal or unseen, right? So it's connecting us more. And so the way the study worked, I measured everybody. There were 39 people in the study. And if you have a sample of over 30, you can do a quantitative analysis. And, I was teaching quantitative research methods at the University of Calgary. And so what we were measuring is before going in the pyramid, and then we went inside the pyramid, and people lay in the sarcophagus for 2 minutes, and then got out and put their hands on the GDD device, measuring the photonic emissions coming off the fingertips, and they're covered and they're dark. And then after. And so And what I was looking for is correlations, the significant correlations. So if its probability is less than 0.05 in statistics, that's a mild correlation, and it means that there's a 5 in 100 chance that it didn't happen by accident. If it's the probability is less than 0.01, it means a 1 in 100 chance, and if the probability is less than 0.001, it's 1 in 1,000 chances. And so if you look at the picture, you'll see there are quote-unquote handles between the third eye and the throat, between the third eye and the belly, and between the belly and the root chakra. Nothing connected to the heart, and nothing connected to the other chakras, nothing connected to the crown, which means that basically in a neutral state, without being overstimulated in any way, like I said before, the experience of going into the pyramid, people are generally connected in this mild fashion, if you will. Yeah?
Okay.
And then move on to inside. And now what's happening is all of the the crown chakra is connected to it has a strong, significant correlation connected to the energy field. And the chakras aren't so connected to one another, but the crown chakra is connected to the third eye. And then you see how nothing's connected to the heart, this is inside, and then the solar plexus is triggering the entire energy field, and as the belly chakra and the root. And so it's almost like, and it measures virtual chakras inside the Great Pyramid, and it's almost like people's chakras were being blown apart. And laying in the pyramid, in the sarcophagus, it really was an ascension device that was assisting the person in the ancient times to leave their body consciously, to have some kind of an out-of-body experience, and
walking between worlds.
Walking between the worlds. Okay? So it was significant what was happening in there, but it takes time for people to integrate. And for all the times I've been to Egypt, I'm convinced that going in the Great Pyramid and inside the body of a Sphinx have contributed to making me more psychic. I mean, I know that inside myself, but I've been trying to measure it and how it works. And, of course, it's not going to work the same in each person.
Right.
But what do we have? So I'm continuing to measure that. We'll be running another study, and hopefully we'll have more than one GED, and Dr. Kortkoff may even come on the trip. And what I want to do is, measure people who don't go in the sarcophagus but do go in the pyramid, every which way, and a post-test and then a delayed post-test to see, because it seems that time for integration is necessary. But in any case, let's move to the after.
Okay.
So what's happening now, and this is the next day, 24 hours after people had this experience, the chakras are now entrained. See?
Yeah.
How the crown is connected to the belly, and the third eye is connected to the root, and the third eye is connected to the heart, and the heart's connected to the solar plexus, and the heart, to a strong statistical significance, less than 1 in 1,000 chance that it happened by accident, is informing the entire energy field. Do you understand?
Yes.
So what's happening is everything is starting to connect with everything else, and it looked to me like someone who, and this is like a statistical analysis of 30 people, so it's not just looking at one person, it's looking at the entire group and the significance that happens. That's just how statistics work. So and none of the other two had anything connected with the heart, but we know that the heart resonance is the most important thing. So after a short period of integration, the whole thing's firing. And there were significant amounts of people, like the energy field increased, the overall area of the energy field increased in people, which means they have more energy reserves, which means they can fight off infection, and their immune system's more active, and they're more resilient in the world. And so that was the effect of the study.
Did you notice any anecdotal changes? Did people talk about feeling different after they did this?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. It's an extraordinary experience, and and people have their own way of describing it. But even working with the scientists in Russia, I did several training sessions, and they said generally people don't know how to deal with this energy. I mean, they're obviously affected, but they don't know how to integrate it because it's not within our vocabulary really to be talking about stimulating our energy field and becoming more connected. I mean, we didn't have the equipment to measure it before, so we don't even have the language. But people know they've had a personal experience. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that so much emphasis has been placed on the left brain, and I think that the science that you're talking about and that you're doing today, clearly the Russians are way ahead of us, will be emphasizing the right brain and the intuitive, and these subtle senses that we're discovering now are really the important ones for informing us about the world around us.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's amazing information.
It is, and there's never been a study like this done because, it's hard to get permits and,
Well, of course, there are always permits.
It's always about the permits, and and I feel very privileged to have been able to conduct this study, and I can only hope that we'll be able to do it again, and I'm pretty sure we will.
Yeah.
Because we've got confirmed permits. So the idea is we're going to go into the Great Pyramid on 12/12/12, and it's always been my conviction that we need to be outside at sunset for December 21st for the galactic alignment. And then on the 20th, there's going to be a panel and a group of presentations that I'm keynote at as well in one of the hotels, and that's open to other people who are in Egypt and other groups who are in Egypt. That's being put together by Evolver Intensives, and it's called 2012 Great Convergence. And so we'll have Dr. Aaron Nell, the archaeoastronomer, and Philip Coppens, who's been on every episode of Ancient Aliens, who talks about star connections in Egypt and that sort of thing, and I'll be talking about the significance of the galactic alignment and how it all fits together. And then on the 21st, we're going to go to Abu Ghraib, where the crystal altar is, and do a sunset ceremony. And then we're all going to go to the plateau, where they're going to put up a Bedouin tent, and we're going to do ritual theater, and we're going to do a major event, and they're expecting about 1,000 people.
Wow.
And so that'll be on the plateau at 7 o'clock, which is the beginning of the new cycle. Because sunset is the exact alignment, which is heralding the end of the old cycle. And you and I know we've been waiting a long time.
A very long time indeed. Well, it seems like it's you probably have turned out to be more accurate than my predictions, in that it will be a gentle turning towards the light, as opposed to something sudden. I'm afraid that my expectations were a little high on that one.
You were thinking it would be sudden?
Yes.
No,
I'm revising my theories.
Well, and
quickly.
Let's see what happens, because, and I've described to you this before, that like before winter solstice, when it's getting darker and darker and darker, we feel more and more and more oppressed and deprived of light. Like with 3 days before winter solstice, particularly in the northern parts of Canada, and then and then we turn toward the light. We got one more minute of light the day after solstice, and then 2 more minutes, and then 3 more minutes. So 3 days after solstice, we have the same amount of light as we had 3 days before solstice, but we feel better because we're moving toward light. Right, and that's the metaphor that I've been using for this.
Yeah.
And so no one knows what's going to happen. No one can predict, but for sure there's a certain number of people that feel a calling that they need to be standing there with other people, and people are self-selecting, of course, for this trip to Egypt.
Right.
And some people feel absolutely they need to be there, and they're most welcome to come.
Well, as I said, it'll be the trip of a lifetime.
Absolutely,
many
even
lifetimes.
for me. It'll be my 28th trip, but I'm sure it's more significant than the others.
I am certain of that. I have no question in my mind. So now there were some strange photos that you sent. Did you want to talk about the crystal ball and the other pyramids while we have time to do that?
Sure.
I've got the new.
So at the conference in Russia, I was introduced to this man named Valery Uvarov. And he has quite a pedigree, and including being a consultant to the Russian government about UFOs. And it'll be a long time before I get to the bottom of everything that this man knows.
Wow.
He wrote a book called The Pyramids, and I've read just about everything in sight on the pyramids, and most of the time I twitch and squirm my way through going, no, it just doesn't fit. And this book, I had a smooth ride. Everything except for the dating. A few little things. But he was there to explain it, and we ended up, talking quite a bit. And his house is like an Egyptian temple. And
wow.
He's building a place. He was built on two simultaneous projects. One was building a new pyramid at Tomsk in the center of Siberia, which is the center of that big landmass. And the project is called the New Atlantis.
A New Atlantis?
So the first pyramid, the capstone went on Monday, like just now. Okay.
Wow.
And the second project he was working on is called the Crystal Spa, and it's right in St. Petersburg, Russia. And he used the pyramid technology, and they're testing equipment now in there, and it opens in September, which is 2 weeks from now. And
wow.
So both of these projects cost $5 million, and he had a hand in both as well. He designed them at the same time. So
wow.
he took me to the spa, and stepping through the door was like stepping into the pyramid.
Wow.
What? How did he do that? And so spending time with him and being involved with his project since, I'm catching on to how he did it and what's going on, and so that's what I'm going to be able to describe to you here. But the one pyramid that is there already is the first of a project of 9. And it's over a water table, and the plan is to do a concentric circle with 4 more pyramids, and then another concentric circle with 4 more pyramids. So there'll be a total of 9. There'll be water in between and grass, and the center one is the biggest in the middle, and it's the New Atlantis.
Wow.
So going from this idea that what we were looking for in Egypt may be something akin to the New Atlantis, it's almost like, spirit whispering in my ear that I was going to have something to do with the New Atlantis. And it may be here and it may be there, but it's coming.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I can explain some of the technology, but he showed me the pictures of the construction, and they started by digging the foundation and making an 8-sided octagon and then putting an inverted pyramid, not a full-size pyramid, but inverted slightly. So it was pointing toward the middle so that when the stones went in, if there was any disruption or earthquakes or anything, they would shake themselves into tightness, because everything was sloping toward the middle, which is the riddle of how, you've probably heard, like a Merkabah, that there's an inverted pyramid under the Great Pyramid. But that's
right.
It doesn't mean the size of the pyramid. It means that it's sitting on a triangle, on a slope.
On a reverse.
So that, and it's true that the Great Pyramid has survived many things. Just like that little pyramid at the other site, couldn't even survive 30 years without breaking apart.
Right.
And so the next layer was spirals that looked like the arms of our galaxy that were 4 inches wide, and it was crushed quartz in a polymer, a white band and a black band, and a white band and a black band. And so when you first look at it, it looks like a labyrinth, except there's no dead ends in it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And then if you let's go between the pictures and all. So I'm looking for the big crystal. Okay, so Brazilian crystal. Now, he had crystals. Now, this one you can even see, it's a channeling crystal. It's an Isis crystal. When you see the top of a crystal and it's got a 3 sides and a 7-sided, 3, 7, 3, 7 all the way around. Anyway, so you can see people standing there. So this crystal has got to be 10 feet high or more.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
And actually, you can see, if you look at the ground, you can see there's black and white. And those are the bands of the spirals that are, and the black and white is the yin and yang, and they're made out of crushed crystal and a polymer.
Wow.
And he had the molds for these. They're metal molds, and he put these into the walls of the crystal spa.
Wow.
I mean, unbelievable. And so crystals all the way around the outside, but then they put the stones around that. So when you go into the finished pyramid, that crystal is operating through the stones, but you don't see it.
Wow.
You see how you're underground and the way that they constructed
Yes.
the base. And, okay, so the way they made the stones, again, crushed quartz in a polymer, and I'm sure you're familiar with Joseph Davidovich's work, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so he's been at it for decades, and his conviction is that the stones in the pyramid were poured. Some may be carved, but a bulk of them were poured, and you find little pieces of shell and whatnot in the sandstone of the stones of the Great Pyramid. And I concur with this because when you look further at the temples, you can see that there's patterns. And, you know, an example is at Kamumbo, where you see rows and rows of these frescoes, but they're identical. And so they could easily have been poured. But the thing is it's problematic to think about carving stones and lifting them. And so he's done a lot of experiments with natron, which is what was used to mummify in Egypt. And but it's interesting because there isn't a lot of supply of natron on the planet. And Ripley's, believe it or not, the hugest supply is apparently on Mars.
Oh, how interesting.
Go figure.
Yeah.
So he was making vats of this polymer the size of a swimming pool. And it was like sludge. And so he was taking chunks and crushed stone, putting them in this natron mixture with water, and stirring it, you know, so big guys with long poles kind of looking like they're cleaning the pool, but they're turning it into sludge. And then they had molds that were square, that were in place, and then they would pour the sludge into it, and then they would cure. And they'd remove the frame and make another one. And they've been experimenting, making pyramids like this. But after the polymer sets, if you take a granite stone or whatever and compare it to the poured stone, no one can tell the difference.
Wow.
It's impossible to tell the difference. And so he has been rejected thoroughly, as we might imagine.
Right.
And he's very interesting because he's got a lab and he's been studying this. Now, I don't even know if Valery Uvarov knows of his work, but he figured it out through the ancient texts. No one knows how he figured this out, but he did. But when he poured his stones that were crushed quartz in the polymer, they were in the mold. They rang them with 9-foot tuning forks.
Whoa.
As they set.
Wow.
Somebody should count how many times you say wow into the tree.
So they're extremely tuned to higher vibrations.
Yes. Now, there's a picture that will come along that in the quote-unquote dead space, but it's really the live space, where the stones actually fill in, there are crystals and pyramids inside that space.
Wow.
So if you look, before casing stone, the pyramid it's snowing because it's Siberia, and you can see the ladder. Are you looking at that picture?
Which one are you?
After the crystal ball, it's called before casing stone.
Okay, hold on. There's placing.
Now let me tell you who funded this thing for $5 million.
Okay.
A produce company, the largest fruit and vegetable grower in Russia, wanted a place, a warehouse, to put the fruits and vegetables, to energize them before they went on the trucks to be delivered for consumption to the population.
Wow.
If anyone was caught with anything GMO, that company could never work with them again. And so they funded this entire thing. And one of their concerns is the 450,000 school children that are in the area, and they want to be able to measure the effects on their ability to learn because the pyramid's standing there. Now, one of the convictions that Valery Uvarov has is that the Great Pyramid is largely damaged and dead, if you will, but it comes alive plus or minus 6 days before and after equinoxes and solstice and January 19th, which is 49 days a year, and he doesn't know why January 19th is the other day. And so it's true that most of the time that I've been in the Great Pyramid has been plus or minus 6 days before equinox and solstice. And on 10-10-10, we had some interesting findings before and inside and outside of the pyramid, because that's not one of those days. And so this pyramid, the new one, is live and functioning as the Great Pyramid would have been before they damaged it. Yeah?
Wow.
Yeah. So if you keep going, and there's a chamber of oracles, and there's a red room, and there's another huge pyramid in there, and this is where they do the supercharging. So there's, interestingly, a red room, a white room, and a black room.
Wow.
And there's a red pyramid, a white pyramid, and a black pyramid. But this is Virgin Mother Chrome colors. This is back into the matriarchal technology. And so inside the Chamber of Oracles, there's a fountain, and this pyramid is built on a water table. There's a fountain in there, and the water comes bubbling up, and that 22-inch crystal ball that weighs 108 kilograms.
Wow. That's big.
Rides on the top and spins because the water's there. Well, a friend of mine gave me a little water feature that sits on my island in my kitchen. And it's a crystal ball that's about 2 inches across, and the water bubbles up and it spins.
Wow.
So interesting that I would even have something like that because it's shaped so that the water just keeps it spinning. But prior to this, the largest crystal ball that I ever heard of was was given by a friend of a friend to the Smithsonian Institute, and it's 13 inches across.
Wow.
So they had this created and brought in from Brazil.
Well, these pictures are just absolutely amazing, and of course, I had never heard anything of it. We don't hear of these things over here. We hear about a lot of destruction and chaos that is going on in the world, but we don't hear about all this incredible creation that people are doing in other countries.
Well, prior to, I call it CNN mentality, they left us with images of, old guys in long trench coats standing in a bread line with no bread.
Right.
That's the last update we got on Russia.
Right. Well, these are...
Okay, so let's keep moving on here.
Yeah,
There's the picture with the big bell.
Okay.
So they're basically ringing the pyramid, and if you look up to the right of the bell, there's orbs, and in the center between the two men is quite a bright orb. And the man standing on the left is Valery Uvarov.
Ah.
And so the whole thing is about ringing. So inside lower chamber, this is the part that's the warehouse where they're going to put the fruits and vegetables. The rest of it, they're testing for other things. And an interesting side effect here is one of the workers who was working in the pyramid even before it was finished had severe asthma and had to take all this different medication. And all of a sudden, he didn't need his medication. He doesn't have asthma anymore.
Wow. Well, I do see the orbs. I do see the orbs in the bell room.
There you go.
Beautiful.
The bell room. And so inside lower chamber is the white chamber, and that's the warehouse.
Wow.
And then
that's
inside
beautiful.
the one inside the new pyramid, you can see the way that they're, building, the blocks go and how the shapes are. And, of course, it's still under construction here. That's all we have left in the interview?
We've got a couple of minutes left.
Oh, I thought it was a longer interview. Okay, come blasting through. Just keep looking. Okay, so the internal structure of the pyramid, you can see how the pyramids and the crystals actually are embedded in what's called the dead space, but the chambers are actually located in the right place to get the resonance field.
Wow.
Okay, so then just keep moving along. Okay. Now the casing stones are on in New Atlantis Pyramid 1, and that is a quartz crystal white polymer that was poured on and was self-leveling. So you can see the sun reflecting off the pyramid.
Yeah.
You can see the pyramidion, which is a crystal capstone that they just put on. Now I'm going to talk faster and faster. And just keep going along here and see how absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous this is. And let's move to new Val photos.
Okay.
And these are ones that... okay, so you can see the capstone.
Yep.
And how they put it on.
Yes, there they are.
And then you can see through that capstone, and then the team. One of these guys is the one with asthma. And then the pyramid from a distance, but that'll be where the other complex goes. This pyramid is 14 meters high. So it's not huge, but it definitely is very alive.
Yes, so you can tell just by looking at it.
So Valery has done 12 different documentaries that have been on TV. He's published 2 books. The other one is called The Wands of Horus, and he's actually been making those. And the Crystal Spa, of course, is actually going to be a club, and it's been designed to help the healing of the government officials, if you can believe it.
Wow. Well,
and so they've got, like, when you walk in, there's a wall of lapis lazuli with a thin sheet of water coming down. There's a couple of walls that are plexiglass on each side, and it's water in the wall. They've got a proper Turkish bath, and they've got this alabaster fountain that's got light shining through it, and it just goes on and on, like it's all low EMF. The marble for the floor came from Brazil. It's outstandingly gorgeous. It's full of this technology, and it feels like standing inside the pyramid because of the way he's put the spiral technology into the wall.
Wow. Well, Carmen, you have certainly brought more than enough to chew on with this visit, and we'll have to have you back and talk some more about this because this is absolutely fascinating. Yes, well, I'm happy to share it with you, and you're the first I'm sharing this with. Well, thank you, Carmen. I really appreciate you coming back to do this show, and we'll have to do another one because obviously in 1 hour we can't cover as much as we'd like to in the time that we have. So before we sign out, could you let people know what your website is so they can sign up for that trip to Egypt this year? It's pyramidcode.com, and the trip is December 8th to 22nd, and the extension takes us to the 26th if people want to join in, and the full itinerary, all the travel details, and everything's on the website. Well, again, Carmen, thank you so much for coming back, and I do hope that you'll come back again. We'll be able to talk some more about this. Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks a million. Okay. All right. Bye. Bye-bye.